If you have back pain, is running okay?
This is a question that we get all the time, and it's a very important one. Now, the tricky part is, and we've talked about this a lot before, the answer is, depends who you ask. If you go to 3 top spine people anywhere in the country and you ask that question, if I have back pain, should I be running or can I be running? You'll get 3 different answers. One person will say, yes, you need to run. You need to run for the health of the back, because the only way for the discs to get proper nutrition is with the pounding to squeeze the discs, then the fluid goes out, the fluid comes back in. That's how the disc gets nourished. So you need to run. Another spine specialist, just as good, will say, you can't run. Running puts too much pounding on the discs. It's going to lead to degenerative discs. It's going to lead to all kinds of problems. It's better not to run for the sake of your back. Now, the third opinion, that's the one I ascribe to. I'm guessing it's the one you ascribe to, but you'll say in a second, is, it depends. And basically, you should listen to your body. If you're running and your back is feeling worse, I would say back off of it. Don't run. Find a different cardiovascular exercise to do. And if you're running and it feels okay, go for it. Generally speaking, what we all agree on is that movement is important. Everyone wants movement for the spine, movement for the joints. But the question about the running is a really good one. And I guess what you have to say to be impartial about it is the jury is still out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the jury's still out because it's so variable, because it's so dependent not just on a person, but even the same person having a flare-up, if you will, of their back. We'll call it back, just to be very general and all-encompassing, is not the same person. And that inflammation and that flare-up is not the same every time. So the answer is not going to hold true for the same person even every time, much less as a blanket statement for everyone.
Sure.
But some of the things to consider is, number one, I completely agree that it is about listening to your body. It is absolutely, movement is better than no movement, and studies have shown that even with a significant flare-up, that bed rest at most for 2 days. After that, it's actually detrimental. And most certainly, we're not talking about running within the context of a significant flare-up.
Sure.
But the significant flare-up doesn't turn off as a switch. And so there is a continuum of this recovery. And most patients want to know, when can I go back to running? Should I ever be running again? And that's where you listen to your body, right? And the biomechanics become very, very important, because it depends on where your pain is coming from. So if the pain is more discogenic, that's one aspect. If there's more facet mediated, then it's another. And the disc, of course, is at the front of the vertebral column, where it has the cushioning properties, and the joints are behind. And so if you look at it as a very simplistic, this front and back, then you could think of it as cushioning parts. If they're inflamed, you certainly don't want to have any impact, because you just have a structure that is inflamed and you want it to recover, so you want to lay off of that structure when it's really inflamed. On the other hand, when it's joints that are inflamed, the impact will have some degree of an inflammatory, pro-inflammatory effect, just mechanically, but there it may make a difference where you're running. Are you running downhill, where you're extending your back and putting more pressure on? Are you running uphill? Chances are you're running in some kind of a loop, where that means you're going to get both, a little bit of both. So that becomes important. So
and the surface that you run on also is important, right? Yeah. Ideally, I think it certainly makes intuitive sense to me that the softer the surface, the better. Yeah. If you can run on a trail, run on the trail. Yes. If you can run on a track, run on the track. And if I would put concrete as my last choice.
Yeah, and treadmills. Most of the modern treadmills are cushioning. They absorb the impact. Another factor that to think about the surface is really, where do you run? And most people will run in their neighborhood.
Yes.
And most people will, for the safety's sake, they will run on the road where there is no curb, there's no walkway. They'll run on the road, and they'll run facing traffic, which makes sense because you want to see cars coming. The difficult part with that, or the detrimental part, if you will, even, is that our roads are formed with a certain degree of camber, degree, so that the water runs off. And then as you're running, if you're running in one direction, then you're going to be offset, like so. And if you turn around and go on the other side of the road and run, you're constantly offset in one direction.
Right, that's a really good point.
That's another thing to consider. So the biomechanics play into how much aggravation and repeated same aggravation you're going to transfer to your knees, your hips, your back.
It's a great point. And along with that, even if you didn't have the camber to deal with, or you still want to think about running as just one part of your exercise. Ideally, especially if you love running and you want to keep running, then you want to cross-train to strengthen the core, to strengthen the leg muscle, so that as you go through and you do the activities that you really enjoy, in this case running, but the same would hold true for tennis or golf or whatever, that your body's more ready to be resilient to the stresses of that activity.
Yes, and the other aspect of that is also the poison is in the dose. So if you are getting back to running, if you are getting into it and you don't want to cut it out, it's not all or nothing.
Right.
If you're usually running 3 miles, great. Start with half a mile or a mile and complement, like you said, with cross-training.
Right.
And so that way you are getting that bit of a dose of the thing that you like. It's sort of like a nutrition. You need to eat what you like, otherwise you can't stick to it. And then the other aspect is that you're also complementing.
100%. That's a really good point. I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Hope you found this very useful. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know your experiences with running. And if you have any topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please leave that in the comments section too. Thank you very much. Have a great day.